Okay, be nice and quiet, okay?
We want to listen to Dr. Tom. He has important things to say. We have that.
Yeah, quiet, quiet. Yeah, be nice and quiet,
Let's take
baby.
some time today just to sit and listen for a few minutes. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to record this to make sure we got it on all levels. And I'm going to make sure this is turned down so that we can see that. And you can comment in the YouTube link. We're going to have Dr. Tom on in a little bit. I want to show you something. I'm going to share my screen in case you're interested in this. It's a very big opportunity to do something really cool because tomorrow, worldwide, with a lot of different groups, we're going to be doing this thing. Where is it? We're going to be doing this thing.
I think it was in the, yeah.
We're going to be doing this thing called the Peace Process. For anybody interested in the vaccine safety awareness movement, and you can just go to ralphhavens.com/peace process and grab that. It's actually, this is the link, right? It's the official looking site. And what it'll do is it'll take you to my Facebook page, and then we're going to be streaming it there. Or you can just go to the YouTube page that you're on right now, and you'll also get it. So I talk about it in this one here. I will leave you this link. I tell you a little bit about what we're up to. So I'll put this in the comments, and you can go look for that. What we're up to tomorrow. Oh, it's already there. Okay, so there it is. I will I'll put it right here too.
Still screen sharing as well.
Nope. So let's just screen share that.
Mommy.
So you can go to the YouTube page and just look for this one. What is the Peace Process? And then click on this link, and it'll take you to a little description of it. And if you want more information, you can go to ralphhavens.com/peace process and click and get even more information about what it's all about. So so join us tomorrow for that. And we're going to have Dr. Tom on any second now. Let me just close out of all these windows. For some reason, my Facebook has been acting funny. So we're going to be streaming it on a couple of different platforms tomorrow. Okay, that's all done. All right, so we're just waiting for Dr. Tom. And the thing that we're up to today, what I really feel called to do is talk about children and children's health. And I'm part of a youth group once a week here. And I tell you, a lot of kids are in a lot of pain. They're in a lot of pain. And they're dealing with a lot of medical conditions, and they're dealing with stuff that, truthfully, I didn't have to deal with as a kid. And if you've been following all the sex education bills that are going into place, Jen read through them. And
I haven't read through them all the way yet.
Well,
I've
some of
seen
them.
a little bit of it, and it's called comprehensive sex education. It's not just sex education, it's comprehensive sex education.
Yeah, I don't like it. So that's my opinion. I think it'd be good to kind of go look at it. I think it's taking away children's innocence. But anyway, there's a lot of stuff going on in their health, and diabetes, for one, is from 2017. The latest research is showing that diabetes mellitus type 1, not the kind that you just eat bad food and you get diabetes, but the kind where your body attacks itself, the autoimmune version of diabetes, is up 30% in children. And cancer
In like a couple years,
in
right?
2 years since 2017. So really that study probably in 2019, that's 2 years, it's been up 30%. And childhood cancer is going up. And autoimmune conditions went up from 12% to 54. And that was the last looked at in the early 2000s. I think they got the data from around 2007 or 8. But yeah, autoimmune is up to 54%. And now it's probably even up beyond that. And one of our friends took their child to the dentist, and the dental assistant was just amazed that her little boy, he's probably about 7, her little boy was on no pharmaceutical medications. Now, when I was a kid, we didn't take pharmaceutical medications. And it was rare to have anybody with a food allergy or with asthma or all sorts of stuff. There was one child with epilepsy, and it was such a novel thing. It was like, oh my God, what's wrong with this one of our friends? And but it was like in the entire school. And in my high school class graduated over 400 people. Now it's like epilepsy, psoriasis, other autoimmune conditions, diabetes, ADHD, OCD. I know a nurse, I mean, not a nurse, a teacher who teaches in the grade schools. And she says every day, 4, 5, 6 children she has to send to the nurse, and they have to go home because they're sick. It's like, that didn't happen. So I'm going to just ask Tom, what's up? So let me just go ahead and move him over to panelist. I think he might already be ready to do this. Let's see, promote to panelist. See, I'm just like concerned, and I want to hear what Tom has to say.
Hi, Ralph.
Hey, Tom.
At his video.
I gotta just hit this button here.
There he
There we
is.
go.
We're rolling.
Hi, guys.
Hey, Tom. So good to see you, man. How's it going?
Interesting. I was listening for a couple minutes on your autoimmune talk, so
Oh, good.
I
Yeah.
totally agree that more kids are on medications, and nurses' offices nowadays, 70–80% of the children are either attention deficit or allergies or have EpiPens in the offices, in the nurses' stations and everything else. So
That's just incredible. And so I was just I thought, that's really up in front these days. There's so much going on in all these mandates that are happening, and kids are, the medical system has somehow overseen what I think is the greatest decline in children's health ever that we've been witness to. But I just wanted to see your thoughts on it. Treatments, of course. One of the things I always kind of consider with a child is that I want to be careful to not turn them into a patient. Like all of a sudden they're just going to all these doctors and they're all these things and they're being told that everything's wrong with them and I'm getting treatment. I want them to be able to get treatment if they need something to get help. But I'm also concerned about that. And so I'll open it up to you. And what you see lots of kids, you've helped tons of kids. What are your thoughts on children and their health and what's going on and what you do?
well, I feel that we've definitely had a decline over the time that we started as physical therapists and healthcare professionals, and up to this date, it's been over 30 years of practice. And the decline of health is definitely in the numbers and in the in the kids' tissues. Lots of healthcare professionals are saying, well, we don't get the changes we used to get with people's health and things. So I had an evaluation this week where somebody had been on Zyrtex for allergies since he was 4 years old.
Wow.
And he's now 22, 23 years old. And always having sinus medications and everything else for allergies. And if you look at a Eastern philosophy and an IMT philosophy, if the system is sick, allergies show up, or acne shows up, and psoriasis, all these autoimmune diseases. And the traditional medical people are saying, let's stop the immune system from working instead of stopping the inflammation from happening. We don't really have real food anymore.
Yeah.
Even our fresh vegetables, unless they're homegrown, aren't as healthy as they were back when we were growing up in those times. But yeah, a lot of children are on medications. A lot of females are at 10 years old starting the menstruation. Time magazine, even 4 or 5 years ago, had a 8-year-old starting the menstrual cycle.
Wow.
Where back when we were growing up, it was 12 to 15 years old. Could that be the hormones being produced in the animal products? I think that's a really big component of that. Another piece is, in a contention I know you have, Ralph, is the water supply and how undermanaged it is, and heavy metals and fluorides and toxicities that they don't even measure for. I'm sure your towns and our towns, every year there's a well or two going out, and a town or a city has to stop what it's doing for a good month and boil the water and things like that. But they don't actually test for or monitor the amount of birth control in your water, the amount of psychotropic drugs that are in your water. I know they look at fluoride and bacteria counts, but those all seep back into our water table.
Wow.
So those influence how we're acting and things too. So
It sounds so dire. We're going to get to some solutions. I hope, I think, I know. I
Yep.
remember back when I was in the early IMT days, I forgot exactly what year it was, but Newsweek came out with their entire magazine. That episode, that time, that month was about how every boy should be on some sort of psychotropic drugs. There's just like this thing of ADHD and OCD, and they actually said,
Mhm.
here's our reason why we think every single person, every little boy, they just have a problem.
yeah.
It's just weird.
I think exercise would help if kids actually got out to run every day and get all their energy discharged, and do 2-3 hours of running and jumping, playing in the woods. I feel that the attention deficit would definitely go down during that time.
Yeah. What do you?
Um,
So you said something about that kind of caught my attention, and I know you've talked about it before to us, and in your classes, that the stuff that used to work isn't working as well. The therapies. Tell us a little bit. Is that just there's more toxicity, or is there anything else going on, or what do you see?
Well, I feel that a lot more patients are more chronic. They either have lots of fibromyalgia or they have an autoimmune disease. The inflammation rate is up. So healing potentials are a lot harder to attain. Like the building blocks aren't there in our diets anymore. We both do a lot of cranial work where we put our hands on people's heads and we can actually feel the bones move. And traditional medicine says that's barbaric. That doesn't even exist, right? So there's a paradox statement there. So we don't know what the real reference is, but I've been doing cranial sacral work for over 30 years now. And the tissue density of a 10-year-old and a 20-year-old and a 30-year-old are a lot different than when I first started studying. They feel almost like mashed potatoes instead of having something that has some texture to it that you can actually feel the different changes. And it'd be like putting when you're rubbing your leg in your upper thigh, you can feel if you're lean enough, you can actually feel where the muscles cut, like the quadricep. You can feel 4 or 5 bumps of muscle tissues, and you can't really feel that up in the brain anymore because it's all like mushed together.
Yeah.
It's almost like chopped meat versus a nice sirloin steak type of thing.
I've noticed that myself, that the tissues of people, and especially kids, it's like it's not like a little kid leg anymore. It's not
Right.
alive with all that aliveness that
And it's all mush. It's
yeah.
right. I was working with a client that has had 20 years of a thing called RSD, reflex sympathetic dystrophy, or now called CRIBS, where the tissues get inflamed, and I can't even move her skin. I should be able to go down and move the skin and touch the bones and feel the muscles and rub in, and there is no differentiation of any of those tissues. And we're starting. Our next step is to have our massage therapists go in and actually massage the good leg to teach the other leg how to start to move again.
Wow.
It just feels like a big bag of mush in there.
Yeah, so many people and so many kids. Remember, I was getting off of, I was running through the woods here, and there's trails everywhere in this town, and you're getting off a school bus. This was a few years ago, and every one of them got off, and we could see stuff, and it's like, oh my God, they're all sick. They just all looked like they had asthma, and they were all puffy, and they were a bit overweight, and they just had, or not overweight, really skinny, but but just not healthy. And so there's something going on. I know you can do a lot of treatment to get these kids back. When somebody,
Well, first of all, it's how, I mean, and you found this through your own natural healing, is what do we accept as food as a community, as a society? And what you and I eat are probably 90% different than the definitely the general public out there. You know, when was the last time you ever even drove through a Burger King or McDonald's, right? Or gone through the middle aisles of the Kellogg's Cocoa Puffs to buy food. And that is the biggest population, that's where most of the kids are now getting the food source. And sorry to say that even the school systems are now, some school systems have 80% of their children having lunch at the school. And the government parameters of what is a real food is outstandingly poor. Like a packet of ketchup is considered a serving of a vegetable during the day.
yeah, so yeah, and it's like everybody, you know, there was that saying about like, who do you save? The Coast Guard has supposedly a rule. One of my teachers told me this years ago, that they come to a shipwreck and there's people all over the water, and they can only save so many, and they like, who do you save? And they say the one swimming towards you. And that sounds kind of cruel, but it's like with all these things going on, we can do a lot of stuff to start to change the world. And that's what we're up to tomorrow with our peace process group session. But to change that, because it can seem so like too big. How do we do this? But for those that are looking for something besides what they've been told so far, it seems to be a process. It was for me. You know, we didn't go, Jen and I just all of a sudden go to a great diet. It was with you guys, you and Sharon, and we did 3 months elimination of gluten, and then 3 months elimination of sugar. And then, you know, little by little, we got more and more into it. And then we found the ancestral eating and more indigenous ways to eat. But it was a process, and it's still a process.
Yeah, it depends on your belief systems. We think that the FDA, some people believe that the FDA is a outstanding institution of protection. So anything that they've approved is okay for the general population. So I have this argument at least once a week that NutraSweet and aspartame and Aspark and all these synthetic sweeteners, well, most people are saying, well, if they didn't approve them, if they approve them, they have to be safe. And my biggest example of that is, we now know that cigarettes cause cancer, and they, in the 40s and 50s, they were endorsing it, and there were also commercials of, my doctor smokes this brand because it's the most healthiest for us, type of thing. And we change after we get some more information. There was a fabulous movie that was in the movie theaters called Dark Water. Have you heard of that
I
one?
haven't heard that one yet.
That was about the DuPont company and Teflon.
Oh my.
And the manufacturing of Teflon. Now you can't buy a Teflon pot anymore. The coating has actually changed. And since like the 70s, when DuPont made it, all the farmers around the factories, their cows died and there was cancer. And the movie was about how many years it just got settled in 2015, how many people are sick. And you notice that, remember the scare about 4 or 5 years ago, get rid of all your Teflon pots and pans, and here's a new surface and thing. And it was because DuPont chose not to put all the research for it. They only did it for the promotion of this process. And cooking with that Teflon chemical actually caused cancers and everything. And they just settled like a $1.3 billion lawsuit of helping the people that had all these lawsuits and things like that. But capitalism and what's good for the population doesn't equal health for the general public. And that still even goes into the public safety of I know you had a worry in the state of Washington and in the state of Connecticut, we just lost religious exemptions for vaccinations. And I feel that this coronavirus is all going to make the public even more scared about taking a reasonable time to get vaccinated instead of do it on the government process and things like that. So it's actually asking who and where and what, who benefits from some of these things in the long run.
Yeah, thanks for saying that, because that's like very it's like one, because I know they're powers that be are really looking at people that are talking about it, and so as a chiropractor, that's
So at this point, this YouTube video may not stay on the internet for very long because it's comments here too.
So when you're dealing with somebody that's they've been down that road of like they followed the things they were told to do, but they've turned around and now they want to get their kids healthy, and they're starting down that road that we went down, and they're getting better and better food sources and more in line with ancient ways of living and eating. You know, they might want to look at, of course, what they're putting in their body, including the vaccines and the ingredients in the vaccines, and and the food and other things that they're doing. When they come into your office or into a practitioner's, what do you tell us a little bit about, like maybe a story or some kind of hope for people that their kids are just not doing well. They're maybe on 1 or 2 or 3 drugs. They've got those conditions, and now they're starting to see some light, like, oh my goodness, what we've been told isn't true. So let's change the diet. Let's change the water. Let's get them outside. Let's get them to the right people. When they end up at your place and they've gone through a process, or you help them get through this process of changing their lifestyle, and they're committed to that. What's the next step? Like, how do you bring these kids back? Can they come back and not get on these drugs? And can they live?
Well, it's having a supportive environment. So one of the hardest things is if you're in a relationship and your significant other doesn't believe in the things you believe, that's one of the walls that are up there. Like, so we try to make it a community event where, okay, maybe if your child has a gluten sensitivity, are you willing as the mom or dad to take off a gluten too? And that sort of gives me an idea of how much pliability there is in the concepts.
That is a great question.
Right. And sometimes I start off my conversation as if it's been a referral in, and it's the husband or the wife of somebody that's really passionate about solving the world and getting healthier, and they see the new light of health, and they're really excited, and they hope I can turn them around. My question is, okay, the door is closed. The person who sent you here isn't here. What are you really here for? Are you here for, you want to learn something about yourself, or you a yes to your visit? Are you just doing this because you got to get them off your back? So a person has to want to change a little bit. That old wise tale, you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. I say, well, if you give it some extra salt and make it a little bit thirstier, you can try to get in there. But you have to have somebody that's willing to possibly want to change.
Yeah, that's the first step. So you got a family that's like both the parents are on board, or at least one's on board, and one's like, okay, I'll go for now. Or you jump that hurdle. I mean, that's a big hurdle if one is not in line with these kind of things. Yeah. If they're both like, yeah, we got to do something. Like, I know people that
and the other way to turn that around, if you're in that type of relationship, is an analogy of the airplane. Put the oxygen mask on yourself first, and then you can help others. So as you get healthier and you feel better, they can't deny that you're getting better. So there's a subconscious improvement there. You know, sometimes you can't get your beloveds to go along with you.
Yeah, that's a really big thing, that like the thing we're doing tomorrow with the peace process, it's a way to go inside and be at peace with whatever it is, whether your spouse is this way or that way, if your kid's well or not well, and to shift that. And then by shifting that, you can change yourself, and they can be different just because you're vibrating So yeah, that's, I love that way. Then yeah, the whole family goes gluten free because we're here to be that change first too for them.
Yeah. And to have the mother of the child, because it's usually the mother that's more interactive on the kid's care, like 80% of the time, and the father's out there trudging through the world doing, making the money and everything else. And it's like this mom comes home with all this great information, and dad goes, I'm going to have to give up my bread and butter, or I'm going to have to give up my cookies. And he sees it as a punishment to him. It's hard to get that to work together as easy, but and it's difficult to have mom say, okay, this is your cereal and dad can have this cereal.
Yeah,
Those types of conflicts are very difficult to have. Even in my personal family, I have 2 older brothers, and we go over for a Sunday dinner at my mom's house, and we have gluten-free pasta and we have non-gluten-free pasta, even after 30 years, type of thing. And they can see at some level, they see how well my mom and I do on gluten-free, and they will still go to Burger King or have that pizza and things like that and think it's joyous and okay. And
okay.
sometimes it's just like, yeah, you got to figure out where you're going to do your battles and stuff like that.
Yeah. So now say both parents are on board and the family's committed, and they're in your office, and then what's possible with these kids that are on drugs and they've got problems and they're trying to get their health back, and what's possible? What's the steps, or does this, like, how long does it take to get somebody back?
Sometimes it's been as easy as listening to how they take care of themselves and what they're eating. This woman with the RSD I was talking about, 20-year history, she would be so crippled after the end of 6 months, she'd be in a wheelchair and needing to get into the Leahy Clinic and go through another under anesthesia surgery where they would spinal block her whole back and be crippled for another week, and she'd have maybe a month of freedom out of that whole 6-month cycle.
Wow.
And what we heard was she was drinking 2 liters of Diet Coke every day and thought she was keeping her weight down. And she was just following the rules of, no neurologist for 20 years. And we got her off of that and said, okay, how about water and a little fruit juice? And her husband was willing to go on board with that. And so all those possibilities was she ready for the change? And she took it up, and within 2 weeks she came back. She came into the clinic in a wheelchair, and she walked in the next day. I just saw her yesterday, and we were looking at our 9-month progress together of how much she did and how much her life has changed by what are we really eating and how food can actually handle that. So having fresh vegetables, turning it around. Another set was a mom in the Hartford, West Hartford area here, and she had a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old. They were blowing the nose, they had sinus issues, and we started with, okay, what's going to be easier, changing the food or giving them a supplement that can fix heal them first? So we sort of went in the door of, why don't you just take this GI Regen, which helps leaky gut, for about 2 months, and I want you to do 20 minutes of exercise. And then the next visit, they're feeling better. First time the kid doesn't have to have an inhaler for 2 weeks for his asthma. And then I pulled out one of my favorite books. It's a paleo diet book, who the author, I'll get it to you in a little bit, but the author has a really good section, about 100 pages, explaining gluten-free, sugar-free. And in the back, there's 100 little recipes that only take 5 ingredients, and the pictures are beautiful.
Wow.
So I gave that to the mother, and I said to the kids, all right, look through this cookbook, and you're going to put 5, pick 5 things that you want mom to make for you. And they both did that. They loved the food that they got. There was a cauliflower pizza, or there was raspberry tart. So they looked good, they were delicious, but they weren't the chemical stuff.
Man,
and about a month and a half later, both of the kids were now having competitions of taking the book and cooking theirs. And adjusting it that way. So we empowered them to learn how terrible the cafeteria food was and do that at the same time.
Wow,
Well, and
that's
then the whole
incredibly
family
cool.
bonding as well. Like there are so many layers to that healing.
Yep.
That's really awesome.
That's
Yeah.
cool. What about the kids that do go down that road and but they go and they're back in school and they just eat what their friends are eating. They kind of like take something off their plate. They kind of sabotage it during the middle of the day. Their mom and dad give them good stuff in the morning, good stuff in the evening, but somehow in the day, you know, maybe they're like teenagers or they're at a point where
That's the hard time to do it, right?
Yeah.
So I try to empower children to, I try and empower parents that, the old school parent used to just say, here's what you eat and this is what you're going to get. In some people with their interdynamic family relationships, that's not going to happen. So what I really hear when people are addicted to different things, like they always want their gluten or they always want their sugar, in Chinese medicine and in Ayurvedic medicine, when you feel crazy and stress, the food flavors that you want to get is salty, sour, and sweet.
Mhm.
So all our fast food companies make sweet, sour, and salty. So sweet is the ketchup, sour is the pickles, and salty is the French fries,
Yeah.
right? Or Coca-Cola is the sweet part. So if you look at all the fast foods out there, they all have lots of sugar, they have all lots of gluten in them. And that is a numbing process. We can numb ourselves up. Sometimes I picture that a glass of alcohol, a tablespoon of white sugar, there's no difference in how much those two people are getting numb from that.
Yeah.
And then for the gluten is an opiate receptor. It has a calming effect. So when I talk about having a nice chocolate chip cookie and a glass of milk, everybody just goes, oh, I remember those days. And the gluten has been shown to be an opiate, just like heroin. So by eating that bread, you do feel comfort, but you're actually doing a heroin injection with gluten in your body. Okay. And the same thing goes with the spectrum of cigarettes. Why do people really know that cigarettes are bad for us? And why does that person choose to smoke almost like instead of giving it up? Because some part of them, some chaos in their body may be just too strong. So by doing body work, Ralph, we can go in and take out some of the other pains so they have more capacity to it.
And so that, yeah, so there's the treatment thing. So much is shifting beliefs and giving them hope and then showing them an alternative way and seeing who wants to start down this road. And then the hands-on stuff is super useful because you can take them out of some of the things that they've been trying to protect and it's just a roll.
And just to remind you, because we only got about 5 minutes left, is that there's plenty of books out on how much our GI system is part of our brain chemistry. There's the small brain, the little brain, the inner brain. There's all books that have been published. But 45% of our neurotransmitters, the way we think, is about the food we eat. So if you have a yeast and a candida infection, so here's something to ask people. They go to the mirror and they stick out their tongue and they got a white coat on it and they have to really scrape their tongue every day. That's probably a candida overgrowth. And that candida can actually change your personality. It will make you crave sugar at the end of the day. So you have these microbes running how you feel inside your body. You're possessed. And that goes along with people that are on lots of antibiotics. If you've been on an antibiotic once in 2 years, that's still somebody that has a bigger candidacy of having leaky gut and needs repair. So the GI Regen herb that we have helps do that very well in the way. But if people are always scraping their tongue, they probably have a candida overgrowth. And that may be the first step of, boy, maybe I'm not as healthy as I should be, right?
Yeah.
And then they need to sneak the sugar. They need to sneak the candy in.
Yeah. So it sounds like someone has that willingness that like I need to change this on a diet level, a lifestyle level, and then do some simple things like take the GI Regen and just start to rebuild the gut and the immune system, and And then it sounds like you haven't even talked much. You have so much training and so many medical degrees. The treatment is then the physical hands-on treatment. You don't have to get a lot of treatment. It doesn't sound like you've talked a lot about lifestyle and
Yeah.
beliefs.
It's what way works for that person the best, right? So we put out that white paper on the coronavirus, so I have people all over the world that don't have an IMT practitioner that they can go to. So it's like, okay, if you're willing to, I will do a consultation and we'll do the herb portion of this, and maybe you could do some acupressure to yourself, and we'll do it week by week, and I slowly coax people through, and I'll try. In the interview, I have to figure out where they are. Are they willing to give up something? Are they willing to take a pill, or are they just willing to do the nutrition? And you know, your diets that you've studied, the Price, is it? Or
It was the price, yeah.
the Price diet's awesome. I mean, everybody should be living that diet. But how to figure out what the tool is for that person. So I was just following up with a person in Utah that is a travel agent because of so she had gotten antibiotics and sick for a long time. It's okay. Can you give up sugar this week? And let's take some GI Regen. And let's do that for 2 weeks. And then she felt a little bit better. So now I can make the suggestion. How about if you have 2 glasses of water today? Sometimes taking somebody, just holding one step as a coach, and it helps them get better. And or then you can change a lot just by teaching people the neurofascial processing of the self homework that we have.
Sure, very
Right.
learned technique.
Yeah.
They're on the link, and I'm gonna I haven't put the white paper on. I got to put that on, and then your contact information to get a consult to see what to do. And there's a lot of stuff you can do for yourself. And that GI Regen is a way to build a gut that's not very hard. You just take a little bit of this stuff.
And so I like to talk to everybody. So we give a free 15-minute chat. And then if we feel like we like each other, we can sign up for going on, you know, to make appointments where we can actually have consultations and things like that. And I know that some of our viewers have used both of us, and it's say, oh, it's nice to see your face. And
Yeah.
I like what you talked about this week and things like that. So
Yeah. So I'll share your contact info again. And it's info at center at imtwellnesscenter.com.
Yeah.
Info at imtwellnesscenter.com. And what's the phone number again?
the phone number here is 860
860
561
561
2286.
2286. So well worth a call. And you can ask me questions about the GI Regen, see what Tom recommends. And then if you need a little treatment, you know, one of us, or we can find somebody for you guys.
Yeah.
Cool.
And if anybody's worried about the, the coronavirus just keeps going on, we could call the office and we can send you out the white paper if you haven't been on our mailing list also, or I can do a quick consultation to just say, here's some preventative things out there. But 40 miles down the road is New Rochelle, New York here. And they have a case of 100 coronaviruses, and they're actually going to bring in the National Guard to block off the streets and stop this mass from getting worse. So I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's bad. I think we're in a little bit of chaos and panic along the way. And I hope that nobody gets sick and ill from the virus, but I feel there's other things that we can be doing. And now another piece I saw this morning was that the news is starting to attack the healthy remedies out there. Like vitamin C is not going to work. Or another one was colloidal silver is bad for you. And, both of those we've studied extensively. They can be a support used in the right tool. But if you're really sick, still go to the urgent care and, make sure that you're checked out and the doctor says, I can't do anything else for you. Then use the remedies is the safest way to say it right now.
Yeah,
But-
it's awesome. And so, yeah, reach out to Tom, reach out to me, and we can both talk to you, free consults, and just steer you towards some stuff that'll help you. And you can hear from Tom. There's a lot of stuff that you can do. So
Mhm.
a lot of stuff that you can do, and a lot of stuff that can be done for you if you need a little more help. So
Yeah.
thank you, Tom. Really good, man. It kind of brought down
Okay.
the level of craziness. So good to see you.
Yeah, and we had winter school and that was amazing.
Yeah.
I just published on the neuroendocrine system. So we had a good 40 practitioners that learned how to help balance hormones and sugar handling and all the neurotransmitters. It was a nice piece of work.
That's a lot of hands-on work that
Yep.
they were learning. So that's awesome. Yeah, next week, we can open up in more of any of that stuff you want to share and anywhere you
Okay.
want to do this. So good to see you. Really good to see
All right,
you.
I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Okay.
Okay. All right, Tom. Thank you, man.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, bye.